All right, good evening, everybody. I'm hoping that you can hear me. I guess a good way to start off is if you can hear me, just give me a quick "I can hear you" or "I'm here" or thumbs up or something along those lines, just so that we know we're all here. Awesome. Um, so welcome to Tuesday. I guess it's not been any longer for most of you since I've seen you, but for some reason it seems longer. I don't know. Maybe we're coming off a long weekend and everything feels like it happened a while ago. But yeah, here we go. Tonight, right off the bat, I can tell you that we will probably not need to be here in the room all together for the entire evening. I'm going to try to sequence a couple of things in such a way that we will start off here all together for maybe the first, I don't know, hour or so. There is going to be a small group activity tonight that we will then break off to work on. That activity you will definitely want to get started tonight in terms of knowing that everybody's here and you can have some communication through the Moodle chat rooms to at least develop a plan. If that plan doesn't get 100% finished tonight, that is fine. Tonight basically starts with all of us together and then some work in small groups, and then after the small groups it's down to the individual level. So I would say once we get to that individual level, if people have a plan for getting the work done at another time, then that is fine too. But that's going to be our kind of format for tonight. Um, the main objective tonight is focused around instructional video. There's going to be a fair amount of crossover between this discussion and so on, and the work from last week having to do with graphics. Obviously, videos and graphics are both visual media for the most part, but we do have the added aspect of time, of a timeline with videos. So we've got a little bit of an article to take a look at tonight. We're going to discuss what that article has to say. And then I've got some pre-selected videos that you are going to break off into smaller groups and take a look at. And then from there, go on down to um, doing some entries about some things. So we're going to work our way down that way. So that's the main focus tonight. Along the way, there are a couple of odds and ends. I do want to talk about something related to Moodle pages, and in particular, embedding videos into Moodle pages, because that's a question that's come up a couple of times. And I just want to make sure that I've gone over how to do that, because that is something you are most likely going to want to be able to do in your own Moodle projects. And then, yeah, and then we will, like I said, well, we're taking a look at videos, small group activity. What I will do is before we break off for the small group activity, I'll take the time to go through the homework for next week so that when I break us off to do the small group activity, at that point, we're kind of done in the WebEx room for the night and can then break off from there. So I hope I explained that well. I feel like that was not the clearest explanation I could have given, but I guess it's the best I could come up with for right now. So before we get into all of that, as I like to do, kind of give a moment if there's things that people want to bring up or questions to ask, particularly related to the work from last week related to graphics and to the Gestalt principle. I will say that the graphics that I saw posted in the forum, there were some really great, really strong examples of some graphic design in there. It looked really good. So it looks like people understand what's going on from the products that you are creating. But if there are any questions or problems that came up or things that you would just like to share with the class now that we are all here, related to Gestalt or related to graphics or the software that you used or anything along those lines? All right. I think I heard crickets outside, or either that or it was crickets here in the chat room, but it looks like, yeah, no questions, just practice. And that's, I mean, one thing that maybe is, I don't know if it's worth saying or not, but I'll say it anyway, is that obviously, we basically spent 1 week's worth of class time addressing the issue of graphics and graphic design, and certainly there is a lot more to it than that. Even just taking one of Dr. Abed's classes, if you're in there, you start to get into deeper layers of all of these design questions. I know we have some people here in the class that have some graphic design background, so obviously those folks know there's a lot more to this than what we can address in 1 week. But even if some of these basic principles are there, then just like Christine said, just getting some practice, finding what works for you, whatever the particular software happens to be that you like to use. I did see some discussions in the forums about some of the different softwares that people like to use, and there were a couple of people that brought up a similar point of trying to sort of scale what software you're using to whatever the project is. There's no reason to go whole hog on an Adobe platform if all you've really got to do is just bang out a quick worksheet for your students. So several people brought that point up and commented about that. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. You discover your own tricks and your own workflow in terms of how you like to approach that. But it did seem, again, reading through comments, like there was generally the awareness of the underlying principles and of some things that you can do even on a daily basis just to improve even a little bit the quality of any graphics that you're using is going to benefit your students. So all right, so if there aren't specific questions, we are going to see that some of those same ideas from the Gestalt laws and that framework are going to come up again tonight as we're talking about video, because they are both visual media, and a couple of the things from graphics are going to become even more important with video, because we are dealing then with the issue of time and having to process things in real time. So having that as a background, I think, is going to help us tonight with our discussion too. All right, so before we get into video, the other thing I wanted to just kind of recap, and I know some people brought up questions last week, for those of you that are in the 520 class, when we were together on campus, some people had a couple of general questions about the Moodle. So I just want to take a moment to kind of say where the Moodle projects should be at this moment and kind of what the next couple of steps are going to be as we move forward. So in terms of, assuming that everything is caught up and that you've kept up with the work so far, in terms of the Moodle projects, part one that should be well along is the instructional design piece. We split that up over a couple of weeks. There was part one that was mostly about the A and the first D. And then there was part two that was mainly focused on the segmentation and continuing on doing the design work. So at this point, both of those documents, or that one document with those two parts, should be pretty well complete, or at least complete as far as they reflect what your current thinking is. If you make adjustments going down the road from here, as I've said before, just go back and make the adjustments in the ID document as well. But in terms of where your current thinking is, both of those phases should be done. And I had just asked you to post the current state of that ID plan at the top of your Moodle. If you're using Word, you can just export the Word as a PDF or save it as a PDF, and then just put that PDF into a resource on your Moodle page. if you make adjustments down the road, just update the document, update the PDF, and update it on the Moodle. But if I go into the Moodles at this point, I should be able to click on something at the top of the Moodle that shows me your design plan, at least as it stands now. So that is one piece of the Moodle project that should be pretty far along, because that's telling you what you're actually building the Moodle to do and a plan about how you are going to achieve that. Along with that, the the top level basic setup of your Moodle should also be pretty well set, meaning the name of the Moodle, how many sections you think you're going to be using, naming those sections, putting in maybe just an initial page for each section, just where you can put in a 1 or 2 sentence description of what that section is going to cover. Remembering that the first section of your Moodle should be a general introduction, and the last section of your Moodle is going to be some kind of a final assessment piece. So you should have that. The basic setup of your Moodle, the overview setup of your Moodle should be also pretty much set up. And at this point, hopefully, could they be learning targets? You mean for the names of the sections, Christine? For the script? Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. Just honestly, it's at this point, because we probably don't have much in the way of content. No, that's okay. And Christine, if you want to, if you have access to a mic and want to chime in with a question with the mic, that's also an option. Um, but yeah, I mean, at this point, the having that page in there is really more about kind of having a placeholder, an initial placeholder. So there's like one piece of content in each section. And since right now you may not have a real clear idea of all of the specifics for a section, just having something there, it's more for to help you organize and kind of pre-plan what needs to go into each section. So if it's helpful for you to have learning targets laid out, or if you want to have it be more descriptive or a couple of sentences, it's probably not something that is going to end up in your final Moodle in that form. It's really more to have something there for you. And then if I'm checking in on the Moodle, even if there's not content in a section, at least there's something I can kind of click on and look at and go, oh, okay, this is going to be where they cover this particular thing. So does that help answer your question, Christine? All right, great. All right, so that piece at this point should be more or less underway or set. Since we did instructional graphics last week, I had made the suggestion that if you know of particular graphics that you're going to want to use in your Moodle, maybe you've got to start on those already. This week we're covering video, and one of the few required elements for your Moodles is that each section in your Moodle should have a quick introductory video, in addition to maybe a text description for the section too. And by quick, I mean a minute or less. So once we go through this week's activities and you've got some ideas about video, you can start working on that over the next week. In fact, that's really the main homework assignment for next week, is just to get one of those introductory videos made, to go through that process and kind of see what that's going to take. And honestly, right now, that's probably about where Moodles are or could be. The main thing over the next several weeks is going to be to start filling in the specific content. As we use Moodle activities in class, tonight we're going to look at the wiki activity. We've looked at the chat activity. We've seen forum activities. We've used the glossary activity. So as we use these various Moodle things, if you see ones that are going to be useful for you in a section, you can start throwing those in. Again, even if they're kind of placeholders to start with, you might just say, oh, I want to use a glossary here, put the glossary in, give it a quick name, and maybe if you don't completely format it right off the bat, at least you kind of have it in there. But that's going to be the main focus over the next few weeks. So the first few weeks were really about setting up the framework for the Moodle, picking a topic, getting the structure there. And now as we start going through various types of content and activities and resources, start filling those into your Moodle as you see what you want to use. Another thing that that is going to be homework for next week, and this will take you probably literally 30 seconds to do, is I am going to be asking everybody also at the top of their Moodle in that header section to put a dialogue activity. And the main difference between a dialogue and a forum is that a dialogue is just going to be between two people. So if another user comes into your Moodle and opens up that dialogue, if you and I have been having a conversation, other people won't see that conversation. And my plan, especially since we don't have a meeting together next week, is for me to get through everybody's Moodles this week and just give you some initial feedback in that dialogue activity, just in terms of sort of where you are and if I have any suggestions or any feedback for you. So that'll be another piece of the Moodle that we'll add this week. But again, all you have to do is just add the activity in there and give it a name, and that should take you a minute or so. So hopefully that kind of recaps where we are. In terms of the next steps, this week is video. Next week is going to be about audio. The week following, we're going to talk about Web 2.0, or I prefer calling it interactive web issues. And then the week after that is assessments. So the next 3 or 4 weeks will kind of get us through the other types of content that you may be putting into your Moodles. And by the time we hit the spring break week for Central, we should pretty much have gotten through all of the things, all the types of things that you can put into your Moodles, and you should be well along at that point in terms of building the actual content for each Moodle section. So that is a little bit of a look back and a little bit of a look at where we potentially should be right now, and a little bit of a look ahead to what is going to be coming next. Anybody have questions that they would like to throw out there now in terms of the Moodles? Question that hard to remember. Change colors and appearance. Okay. Yeah. So Kristen, the colors and appearance, the only thing we really have control over in terms of colors are if you have set the Moodle up so that the sections can be collapsed and you get those the bars across the screen, like the Moodle that I use for our class. So if you haven't chosen that as your setup, then you're not going to have those bars, and that's where you get all the color options for what color do you want the bar to be and the text on the bar to be, and issues like that. So if that's kind of the level of color and appearance you're talking about, that would be in the settings, the administrative settings for the whole Moodle. If you're talking about on individual pages, that comes with the text formatting and so on. And actually, we are going to take a little bit of a closer look at that in just a little bit here. So if you're looking to format the color of a text on a particular Moodle page, that would be done just right in the text editing itself. So yeah, and Kristen, if you can't find those settings or whatever, then yeah, feel free to give me a shout and I'll get you pointed in the right direction. Anything else sort of Moodle related at the moment? Select. Yes, Taylor, you can actually change any of those settings at any time on your Moodles, because that choosing the different types of those doesn't change any of the content. So you're not locked in. If you could build your entire Moodle and then decide you want to go back and not give the students the option to collapse the sections or whatnot. So that really just has to do with how Moodle organizes the content on the screen. So yeah, if you change your mind, you get down the road, you think a different organization will work, you can always go back into those administrative settings. I've got the Moodle that's here on the screen. I go over to this administrative tab and it's going to this edit settings. And that's the settings for the whole Moodle, not for individual pages or anything. So that's the overview settings where you would go to access that kind of stuff. All right, good questions, good questions. Anything else? All right. So what I did want to take a moment, and actually that's kind of a good segue to this next thing. This is a little out of context in terms of the main focus for tonight, which is video, although there is a tie-in with it, I guess, is I did want to take a moment in particular to point out one specific thing, because I don't think I went over. I guess there's a chance I already went over this, but I don't think I did. So, and that has to do with embedding, particularly embedding videos into a page. So I'm going to go, I'm here in our class Moodle, and I'm just going to add a new page resource here just to have something to look at. So this is, I'm just going to call it test video page. And what I wanted to point out had to do with formatting things in these text boxes, and in particular having to do with embedding content, in particular embedding, say, YouTube videos or TeacherTube videos or content like that. So any of these text boxes in Moodle, as I think a lot of you have found out, you get these basic editing functions, which are sort of the formatting of the text, bolding, italics, bulleted lists, numbered lists. If you want to create a hyperlink, these three buttons here are for creating the hyperlinks. One thing I do want to point out in terms of links for you to think about is when you create a link, one of the options you have in the target is whether it will open the website you've selected in the window that the person is in. So they're in your Moodle. If they click on the link, it will take them away from the Moodle and open up that website on that same page. What I oftentimes will do if it's going to an external website is select this second option, which is to open it in a new window. And that just means then that when they click on the link, they will still have a tab open that is your Moodle. So they can come right back to where they were, and it'll open up a new tab or a new window in your browser and open up that link in that other tab or page. So that option right there of targeting it is just something I wanted to point out. In our class Moodle, I almost always have links open in new windows because I just find it's a little more useful to keep tabs open and be able to go right back to where you were instead of having to hit the back button a bunch of times and trying to remember where you left from. Oh yeah, so embedding the link for email. So the trick with email is, and actually I can do this right here, is the way to create, if you're not familiar with HTML, the way to create an email link is that you start with the link by putting the words mail to, all as one word, MAILTO, and then a colon. And then what you would do after that is put your email address. And what that mail to is, that's the signal to HTML that this is a link, but it is a special kind of link. And when you click on the link, what it will do is open up whatever mail client that person has on their computer, and will put this email address into the addressee field in there. So if I was to create this right now and hit insert, now this test link If I click on it, we'll see. Oh, actually, you guys won't see it because it's going to take me to my mail message. But that will then uh, allow people to go directly to email. So yeah, I should have put that on my list. I did not think to put that in there. So mail to is the key if you're putting in a mail link. All right. So the other thing, the main thing I did want to show you is that, and I think I did at least point this out. If this button that's right here is what that does is it opens up sort of advanced options for you to use. I think they just do this to save space. They figure this top row is things that people are going to use all the time. And rather than having all this other stuff show up all the time, they give you the ability to expand and contract these toolbars. So, I think before I pointed out, especially for some of the math or science people, there's superscripting and subscripting. There is actually a formula editor you can use. If you want to put in a table, this is where you get the table thing. You can change your alignment, left, center, and right justification. So those sort of extended text editing features. And you can also get some more detail here in terms of fonts. But the main one I wanted to point out is this one right here, which is the greater than, less than signs parked next to each other. Those are the symbols for HTML markup language. So if I'm in a page and I click on that button, it's going to open up a new window. And that new window is going to actually show you the HTML that creates this page when your users go to it. You don't have to do, unless you know HTML, and that's not the expectation here, is if you like to tinker in HTML, you can actually come in here and make changes right to the programming for the page. I wouldn't suggest doing that if you don't know. But if you want to embed a video, if you go to YouTube and say, I want to embed this, what they're giving you is a chunk of HTML. So if I come into this page with that stuff and I just paste it in here, it's going to paste it as text. It's not going to embed the video. So I need to go into this HTML mode in order to paste that embed code in. So I'm going to actually do this here for real so you can see it. So I have been obsessed the last few weeks with this guy from Sweden who created this marble music machine. And this was his first generation machine, and he's now building a second one. But I think it's really cool. But anyway, so here we are on a page, and say I want to put this video actually in my Moodle so people don't have to leave my Moodle. I'd come down to share, and then I want to tell it not that I want the link to the video, but I want the embed code. So I click on that, and it's going to give me this whole series of stuff that is the embed code for this video. And you'll see it starts off with that less than sign and ends with the greater than sign. So this is all HTML markup language. So once this is sitting here, I hit copy. So that text is now all copied. And if I come back to my page, if I were to just paste right now, it's going to put that in as text, but not as an actual embedded video. So what I need to do is go into the HTML editor, and then I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to paste all that stuff that got copied from YouTube. Now if I hit update, that video is now embedded into this page. So if you're going to embed videos, this is the way to do it. There's other sorts of web content. And in a few weeks, when we talk about interactive web or Web 2.0, there's a lot of other types of content where they do give you embedding codes where you can embed an activity from another website in your own website. And you would do the same thing. As long as you have the code you need from the other website, you would come in here, go into that mode, and then paste it while it's in the HTML editor. If you want to get rid of it, you just highlight everything that was there and delete it, and then that video is now gone. So that's a feature I wanted to point out, because probably of all of these advanced features, that ability to embed videos is one that a majority of you, if not all of you, are probably going to want to do somewhere in your Moodles, even if it's just with your own introductory videos that you want to put in there, if you've got the videos hosted somewhere else. So this is what I do every week with the class videos that I post. Once I've made a video, I put it up on YouTube, and then I grab the embedding code from YouTube and I put that embedding code into the Moodle page. So that is just a little trick, a little tip I wanted to make sure I had gone over. The email thing was also a really good one to bring up, so thank you for that. Any questions about this embedding process? The key is remembering this button here. It is, Jill, that is going to be up to you. Maybe after this week's class, you might have a clearer idea of what mode you would like to use for those introductions. You may want to have talking head there because that gives a little personalization, or you may decide that having you on screen is going to be too distracting and you just want to have straight text and audio. It's going to kind of be whatever is up to your audience that you're targeting and what content it is and what you think is going to serve best for your Moodle. Some people just hate seeing themselves on video, so I totally understand that. All right, so any other questions regarding this? All right, I'm going to cancel out of that because I don't really need that page. All right, so I think that kind of goes through all of the introductory-ish, looking back, looking forward kind of stuff. So I want to transition now into the main topic for the night. And that is, as I said, instructional video. Along the way, we are going to learn how to use a wiki activity, which is one of the Moodle activities that you might find yourself wanting to use in your Moodles. So we're going to use that as our learning activity tonight. So just to set the stage here, we're going to start. There's a short article that in a moment here, I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to read through. And we will come back together then as a class and get some thoughts and some feedback about what your takeaways were from that article. And then I will probably take a little bit of moment at that time to go through and just talk about the homework for next week, although I think it's relatively self-explanatory. And then I will get everybody set up on the wiki activity and on the small group aspect of it. And then we will be off and running with that activity for the rest of the evening. So to start with, I currently have 5:35. The video is not terribly long. So, not the video, the article is not terribly long. So maybe what I'll do is give 10 minutes is probably generous, but I'll do that. Let's say 10 minutes just to have everybody go to our class Moodle, find this article, which is titled Creating Effective Educational Videos, which seemed like a pretty useful title for an article. And just kind of read through this and maybe jot down some notes about what your takeaways are. And then at about 5:45 or so, we will come back together and we'll do a little debrief and then go on from there. You can absolutely stay here in the WebEx room. In fact, that might be easiest so you don't have to log back in. So just leave the WebEx open in the background and go off and take a look at the article. What I would ask, just so that I know we're ready to move on, is that when you're done with the article and are back here in the room, just throw a quick thing in the chat saying I'm back or finished or ready or something along those lines. So when I see that all 7 of us have returned, then I will know we are ready to move on with the discussion. All right, so we're clear, off to the article, spend a few minutes reading, and we will return here and just let me know when you're back in the room. All right, I will see everybody in, oh, now we're down to 8 minutes. We'll be fine. All right, see everybody in a few minutes.